Hey viewer, I'm in a pretty foul mood, so let's make like USA Republican primary debates and talk about how the post-secondary education system ruined a generation of people. Whenever we talk about universities, or if you're American colleges, we automatically think of occupation-specific trainings, like engineering, law, and medicine. Very few people out there think of arts, humanities, and social sciences as appealing disciplines because they don't teach skills you can use in the job market. There also has been a push both from the right and the left side of the political aisle against social sciences and humanities, but in different ways. In the face of all of these challenges, social sciences have suffered, and by extension, liberal education also has taken a hit. But what is liberal education? Liberal education is basically an education meant to help students understand how to live liberally or humanely. Now, being more in touch with your humanity does not mean being more in touch with your feelings, but rather having three distinct abilities: critical self-examination, expansive imagination, and intellectual curiosity. These three qualities are imperative for liberalism because a good liberal must have self-awareness to adopt with the times and see beyond their own needs, ability to see beyond what is in front of them, and a desire for betterment of their communities. These three characteristics are the quintessential qualities liberal education cultivates in liberal societies. And liberal societies need liberal education not only to have their political regime advance, but also to become more desirable. To only look at education as a means of learning the necessary technical skills to make a good living misses one of the most fundamental qualities liberal regimes need to prosper, and that is beauty. In the immortal words of the great American philosopher Robin Williams in the movie Dead Poets Society, we read and write poetry because we are members of the human race, and the human race is filled with passion. And medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for. Liberal education is meant to fulfill this latter element of our lives, and hence why it's imperative for liberalism. A liberal society that is economically prosperous but emotionally and aesthetically lackluster is very hard to live in. I know that a lot of people, when they hear the word social sciences, think of a pink-haired feminist with lip piercing yelling at Jordan Peterson. But believe it or not, conservatives have been historically defenders of liberal education and the social sciences. In the United States at least, liberal education was synonymous with great books, which includes American founding documents such as the Declaration of Independence, the American Constitution, and the Federalist Papers. Some schools have even included speeches into their liberal education curriculum, such as Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. Progressive also participated in liberal education, but conservatives weren't anti-social sciences like many online conservative pundits are today. Both progressives and conservatives were necessary parts of a vibrant education system. You can't just teach tradition, you also have to teach people to question tradition. In fact, philosophers taught in liberal education curriculum were considered outsiders during their own time. However, at some point, conservatives abandoned the social sciences in favor of more technical disciplines. At this point, one important critique began launching against liberal education, and that is, liberal education is the domain of outdated traditionalism where dead old white men reign supreme. This was somewhat accurate. Many universities taught male philosophers from the West and ignored important female and non-Western philosophers. So, schools began incorporating more diversity into their curriculum, which proved very beneficial for students because it opened the door to so many new and important perspectives. From Mary Wollstonecraft to Sojourner Truth to Martha Nussbaum, students were introduced to interesting, previously unheard voices. Yet the critique never went away, and as a response, some scholars revolted, leading to some schools gaining a very divided faculty with a lot of animosity. Out of fear of losing more students, University administrations began exerting more and more pressure on social sciences and humanities departments. I don't mean by this that the administration wanted teachers to adopt different forms of teaching. Teachers love creative way of making more students understand the text, so any opportunity to make the material more comprehensive for students is something the faculty generally supports. But the administration literally meant reducing the difficulty of the material and in some cases encouraging less critical reflection. I have even heard stories that some departments are being forced to put more courses online because it is easier and cheaper for the university and more lucrative, as the number of students you can enroll in online programs are higher. Even in-person classes are being pushed to have more and more students in them, which decreases the quality of education because the teacher can't design the material to each student's need. The university became less like a place for learning and more like a factory, producing more and more workers rather than citizens. Now, here's the thing. The students are not stupid. In fact, they're incredibly eager to learn and both question and defend and think about some pretty hard material. Once they get a taste of what the liberal education can offer them, they become addicted to it, either as incredibly brilliant critiques or as nuanced defenders. Yet, the university believes the answer is not more challenging material, so students can hone their thinking skills, but easier marking schemes, not more novel ways of teaching which engages the student with the material in interesting ways, but less in person and more online courses because it is easier and gets more butts in seats. With the students leaving liberal arts in drove, a divided faculty fighting over crumbs, and a university looking at its bottom line, liberal education found itself in a very precarious position, which is unfortunate because the students have a genuine thirst for it, and ultimately they are the ones suffering as a result. With a failing liberal education, liberalism began suffering because the focus of citizens shifted from both economy and beauty to purely economics. Liberal politics became ultimately only about the economy. With less and less emphasis on the humane element of liberalism, the regime came to be seen more and more as empty and by extension harder and harder to defend, even when economically prospering. Good economy gives liberalism the ability to provide its citizens the material conditions they need to live a good life, but liberal education provided liberalism with beauty, which instilled in the citizens a desire to live liberally, not just live in a liberal regime. So, dear viewer, go out there and spread beauty because God knows we need it right now.